Yes. So, in this last class, we have seen about that digital signature concepts, right? So, do you have any doubt in the digital signature? No doubts.
சார் ஒரு ரீகேப் பார்த்துட்டு போகலாம் சார்.
Okay. Okay. So coming back to the digital signature as a recap, so digital signature is like a digital sign. It's your digital signature. I mean, it's your you're going to sign or you are going to authenticate your content as in the digital format. Okay, so that is the main purpose of digital signature, right? So we have some properties here. So what are the properties of digital signature? It verifies the authors, dates, and time of the signature. Okay, and also it has some third parties to verify the signature. To provide the digital signature or to verify the digital signature, we have certain third parties. That third parties will be authorized by the government. Clear? So these are some of the properties of digital signature, right? And we have some two approaches in the digital signature. One is direct digital signature and another one is arbitrated digital signature. Okay, so direct digital signature in the sense we have only two participants, one is a sender and another one is a receiver. That is the first condition, and both the sender and receiver can mutually trust each other. Okay, so they can trust each other, right? So they'll create a message. I mean, they'll create a hash key by using that original content by using that original message. That hash value will be encrypted by using the private key of A. Private key is nothing but a password of A. So that encrypted hash value will be concatenated with that message, and that concatenated message will send to that receiver side. So in that receiver side, the process will be happen. The same process will be happened. The encrypted hash value will be segregated individually, and the message will also come gone through that hash function. Okay, now the hash function from that, the hash key from that receiver side will be compared with that hash key which was sent by the sender. Okay, if both the hash keys if both the hash keys are same, the receiver can conclude the message doesn't have any changes, right? So this is a digital signature. We have seen the same concept in that MAC function and also the hash function, right? So coming to that arbitrated digital signature, here the main difference is the sender and receiver will not trust each other. That is the main condition. Okay, so to sacrifice both of them, we have a third party. We have another user called third party, right? That third party will verify both the sender and receiver. Clear? Okay, so if A wants to, I mean, if A wants to send a message to B, okay, so he sends, but the mediator, that is the third party, will verify will validate the user A, okay, will validate the sender. If the validation gets success, then only that message will be sent to B. Okay, so this is an arbitrated digital signature. The main difference between a direct digital and arbitrated digital is in the direct digital signature, only two parties are there. One is a sender and another one is a receiver. But in the arbitrated digital signature, we have three parties. Okay, and the third party is known as the third party is nothing but a authorized digital signature vendor. Okay, so he will validate the sender and receiver before the transaction happens. Okay, so this is the main difference between direct and arbitrated, and we have seen certain types in that arbitrated digital signature also. Okay, so we have seen that I think three different categories. Okay, so you just go through this PPT, sorry, which I've shared in our Ratnam learning environment itself. Okay, so it will be somewhat clear. You will get some clearness in that, right? So this is all about digital signatures. Okay, and our next topic is authentication protocols. Okay, so first of all, what is mean by that authentication? The same thing which we are repeatedly saying from that first unit, from our first unit. What is mean by that authentication? It providing the identity of the particular sender or receiver, particular user. He may be a sender and he may be a receiver. Okay, but he wants to show himself. He wants to show his identity. That identity is known as authentication. Okay, the simple example is when I sending a message to you, how can you identify this message is from Praveen? By using my public ID, or by watching my mail ID. Okay, but in this case my mail ID is a authentication of myself. Okay, authentication of Praveen. Okay, so this is known as authentication. And in this session, we are going to see some of the protocols which is used to provide the authentication for a particular user. User may be a sender or a receiver. Okay. Okay. So coming back to the session, an authentication protocol is a type of computer communication protocol. It's a communication protocol, right? I think you all are remembered that concept. It is in your computer network subject. I hope you have studied in your third year, right? So we have various protocols: TCP, UDP, FTP. We have various protocols, right? And one protocol is used for that communication purpose. So what is that? You have any idea? Anyone? Okay. Anyway, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Anyway, I think you were crossed that concepts called FTP, SMTP, like that. Correct? FTP is nothing but file transfer protocol, and SMTP is simple mail transfer protocol. Correct? Right. So these protocols are used for the communication purpose. Okay. So in that FTP, what is the difference between FTP and SMTP is in that FTP, the files can be transferred between the systems, which they must connect with that LAN wires. Okay. That FTP will be used once if it is a connection oriented network. Okay. So then only the file transfer protocol will be helped. Okay. But in the case of SMTP, that is simple mail transfer protocol, you can send your mail whether it is a connection oriented or whether it is a LAN or whether it is a wireless, wired, any other connection. The simple mail transfer protocol will be used for transferring your messages. Okay, so these are the protocols. That is, SMTP is an important protocol which is used for connection, which is used for sending a mail, sending a mail transfer or file transfer with through wire or wireless anyway. Okay. Okay, so you just remember this is the protocol which is used for communication purpose. Okay, so also it is used to convince parties of each other's identity. That okay, so each other convinced by each other's identity. What is that convince happens? Okay, so the sender must believe he is the perfect receiver, and the receiver must believe he is a proper sender, right? So this is a mutual understanding between the sender and receiver. It happens by using this kind of protocols. We can get this kind of things by using these protocols. Okay, and we have some two important issues in that artificial protocols. I mean, sorry, authentication protocol. One is confidentiality, and another one is timeliness. So, what is a confidentiality? Confidentiality is nothing but to protect session key, right? So, what is confidentiality? The key or a data must be known only by the particular users, not to all. That is a confidentiality. The same thing, we need to protect our session keys. That is known as confidentiality. And second one is timeliness. So timeliness is nothing but to prevent replay attacks. Okay, the same message will be repeatedly will receive to that receiver, will send to that receiver. Okay, so it will cause some traffic occurs. Okay, so due to our traffic, the network may be jammed. Okay, so this is one of the issues in our authentication protocols, and that is known as timeliness. Okay, so timeliness is nothing but to prevent the replay attacks, and confidentiality is nothing but to protect the session keys. Okay, okay, so these are the types of replay attacks now. So what are the types of replay attacks? First one is simple replay, right? So what is meant by simple replay is an attacker simply copies a message and relays it to later. Same thing, if you send a message to your friend, Okay, that message was captured by that attacker or captured by that intruder. He dropped your transaction. Okay, after some time, he will send a same message to that receiver. So that is a simple replay attack. Okay, it causes some delay between the transactions from between the transaction between sender and receiver. Okay, it will delay transactions. Okay, it's just a simple replay, right? So you may also experience those kind of things. If you send a message, if you send a good night message at night, it will receive to that particular receiver in the morning. Okay, so this is like a simple replay attack, right? And the second one is a repetition that can be logged, right? So repetition that can be logged means time-stamped message within a valid time. Logged in the sense we can have certain list. Okay, we can have we just maintain certain list. Okay, the replay time-stamped message within a valid time. For example, OTP is an important example of this. I mean, interesting example for this repetition. Okay, you will receive some OTP and it will be valid for just 10 minutes. Okay, so that is a main example for this replay time stamped message. Clear? And the third one is repetition that cannot be changed. There is no validated time the OTP can use any at any cost. Okay, so that is cannot be changed. That is third type, repetitions that cannot be changed. That is the third type. And the fourth one is backward replay without modification, right? So backward replay without modification is this type of attack is possible if symmetric encryption is used. Symmetric encryption is used. What is symmetric encryption? Anybody? Yes, anybody? Yes, anybody?
சார் சேம் கீ யூஸ் பண்ணி என்கிரிப்ஷன் டீக்ரிப்ஷன் சென்டர் சைடு ரிசீவ் சைடு யூஸ் பண்றேன் சார்.
Yes, the same key will be used for both the encryption and decryption. That is called symmetric encryption. Good, Jishnu. What about others? So your number is present here. You are absent, right? Can I take like that? Okay. So anyway, we'll check it out. Right. So backward replay without modification. So the third one is backward replay without modification. In symmetric encryption, the most of the cases will occur in that symmetric encryption methods. Okay. So the sender can encrypt the data. Okay. And that encrypted data will send to that receiver. But once the receiver, I mean, that encrypted data reversed back to the sender means the sender cannot able to identify what is a sent message and what is a received message. This is one kind of replay attacks. Yeah. Okay. So countermeasures include, what are the countermeasures are there to avoid these kind of issues? Okay. Use a sequence numbers. So sequence number means for every message, for every data transaction, we can put that sequence number 1, 2, 3 like that sequence number, right? But it is generally it is impossible. Okay. So because we have numerous messages, we have numerous data. Okay. So we need to number means it will itself take more time, right? It will itself take more time. Okay. So and second one is timestamp. Timestamp is nothing but for every message I can fix that timestamp. Okay. And challenge response. It's a unique nonce. Nonce is nothing but a randomic number. Okay. So nonce. It's a randomic number. Okay, so we can fix that randomic number. We can give that randomic number to each and every data. Okay, so these are some of the countermeasures to avoid that replay attacks, right? Next one is one-way authentication. Okay, so one-way authentication is one party wishes to convince of the identity of another party. That is, sender wants to convince the identity of the receiver. Okay, that is a one-way communication, right? Uh, in this case, how to say means if you sending a message to that receiver, you just want to if you sending a mail to that receiver, you just want to know the mail ID of the particular receiver. Okay, so this one-way authentication is nothing but the mail traction, there is no need of sharing the informations between the sender and receiver in the same time. There is no need of same time communication between both of them. Okay, so that one way authentication is nothing but any one of the persons will authenticate the other person is the identity one, the other person is the truth one. Okay, that is known as one way authentication. Clear? Second one is password-based authentication. So password is a frontline protection against the unauthorized access. Yes, is simple example. You have a laptop or you have a mobile. That mobile was locked by with the password. Why you are locking that? That is your mobile. Then what is the need of locking your mobile, right? Because to protect from the unauthorized access, maybe it will be used by with your friends, and you have stored some confidential data in your mobile. Okay, you need to protect that data with that with your friends and or any other neighbors. Okay, so for that you have logged that mobile by using the password. Okay, so that is a password based authentication, right? So password vulnerability. So what is that password vulnerability? In some cases, if you give some password to any other websites or any other mail, it just calculate your password strength. Okay, it just measure your password strength. Okay, so you just want to combine all the characters, alphanumeric and case sensitive. So you just want to give the club of all the things, right? So that is a password vulnerability. Okay? Passwords can often be guessed. For example, if you that all of us have a general password, right? For example, Ratinamat123, it's a general password. Okay, it will be easily guessed. Okay, so at any cost, if some new account has been opened, the password will be the Ratinamat123. If you need to protect that mail, if you need to protect that mail ID, you just want to reset the password, right? That password will be the club of all the things, right? Like case sensitive, uppercase, lowercase, and you need to apply alphanumerics and also numbers. Okay, so this is a password vulnerability, right? Some techniques to protect password: a longer password. Okay, so if you give a longer password, the attacker will have a low chance to get your password. Okay, because if 8 characters are there in your password, for example, in your password, some 8 characters are there, the attacker must use 8 factorial possibilities. I mean, 2 power 8 factorial possible, 2 power 8 possibilities. He must try, right? If it is also possible if your password only contains the only contains the alphabets or only contains the numbers. But if you have a club of all the things, it will not be uh, get by any other intruder. Okay, so that is a longer password. Next one is encrypted passwords. Encrypted passwords is nothing but digital signature is one of the type of encrypted passwords. Okay, so instead of storing the names and password in plain text form, they are encrypted and stored in ciphertext form in that table. Okay, so your password itself has encrypted. Okay, so that is the second type to protect our data for the authentication purpose, right? And the third one is one-time password. One-time password, it has certain validity. Okay, so that one-time password is highly used when you forget your password or when you entered newly into that particular domain. Okay, so that time that one-time password will be given, right? certificate based authentication. So certificate based authentication, again the digital signature comes under this certificate based authentication. Okay, so the certificate based authentication scheme is a scheme that uses a public key cryptography and digital certificate to authenticate a user. Okay, so to authenticate a particular user, that digital certificate will be provided to that user. Okay, for example, it's like ISI grade now. So ISO, sorry, ISO grade, right? So ISO grade is for best one, best how to say, for best institutions or best concerns. Okay, so that is a certificate which authenticates this institution has some best quality. Okay, so for quality measurement, after checking the quality of the particular concern, they will provide that ISO. Okay, so that is a certificate. It authenticates this institution has a quality, it has a very good quality, like that. So that is a certificate based authentication. Okay, so this is a certificate-based authentication diagram, right? So we have a sender and we have a receiver. The certificate chain will be created. Okay, we have some steps. So A sends his certificate. So A is a user. Okay, he sends the certificate to that particular receiver, right? So after that, B verifies like name, validity period, CA. Okay, so B verifies the certificate which was sent by A. Okay, so what is that particular verification means? It just verifies the validity time of the certificate and the name of the certificate and certificate authority who provided the certificate. Okay, so this will be checked by that B. And step 3, B then sends his nonce or is a symbol or is a random number which will be sent from B to A after verifying the certificate. Okay, now the communication has been started between the sender and receiver. Okay. Okay. So step 5, B receives a message. E of A, E is nothing but an encryption. Okay. So encryption of that particular nonce. It will attach the nonce which was sent by that receiver also. It will attach the non also, and the data will be encrypted by using the private key of A. Okay. So the whole thing will be again communicated to B. Okay. So now the transaction has started, right? So this is a certificate based authentication. Next one is mutual authentication. So mutual authentication is also known as two-way authentication. Okay, so two-way authentication is based on the shared secret key, right? So it's based on the shared secret key and also using the public key cryptography. That mutual authentication is highly used in the public key cryptography, right? Okay. So it has two techniques. One is based on the shared secret key, right? So what is called that shared secret key, right? So here is Alice. So Alice sends a message to Bob. Okay. So Bob sends a challenge RB to A. He challenges Alice by sending RB. Okay. Third one, A responds to the challenge by encrypting RB with AA. The RB has been sent to A. That RB has been encrypted with private key of A. That RB which was sent by that receiver, that is sent by the Bob, will be encrypted by using the private key of A. And that encrypted data will send to that Bob again. Okay. So after this encryption, that RA, this is also one of the norms, that RA is also sent to that Bob. Okay. Now the Bob also encrypt the same, the encrypt that RA which was sent by Alice, and that encrypted value sent to that Alice. Okay, that is two-way authentication. Now Bob checks the authentication of Alice. Bob checks the identity of the Alice. After that, Alice also checked the identity of the Bob. Okay, so this is the two-way authentication. Just hold on. sorry for the interruption. So we can continue. Some battery problem in my mobile. Okay. So this is the two-way authentication, right? Okay. So what is the difference between one-way authentication and two-way authentication is in that one-way authentication, any one of the sender or receiver, that is any one of the user can authenticate, right? So that it is called a one-way authentication. And also there is no need of transmission. There is no need of transaction between that sender and receiver at the same time. There is no need that. Okay, so that is a one-way authentication. And but in the case of two-way authentication, both the sender and receiver must authenticate himself or herself each other. Okay, so that is a two-way authentication. Yeah. The next technique in that one is using public key cryptography. We have seen now mutual authentication, right? So in that mutual authentication, we have seen that two-way authentication part and also using public key cryptography. It has two techniques. That mutual authentication has two techniques. One is two-way authentication, we have seen, and next one is using public key cryptography. This is another approach. Okay, so in this approach, Ally sends a random number RA and identity by encrypting. Okay, so it sends a random number to receiver, right? Ally uses Bob's public key. Ally uses the Bob's mail ID to send. Yeah, so that is the first thing. When Bob receives the same message, Bob sends Alice back a message contains some randomic number RA. Okay, it has some randomic number which was sent by A and his own randomic number RB, right? And proposed session key K5. Okay, simple. First thing, Alice sends a random number to Bob. First point. Bob receives that random number. Now, Bob replies to that Alice. That reply message contains Alice's random number, that is RA, and Bob's random number, that is RB, and also a session key, that particular session key, that is K5, KS, sorry, that is KS. These three things will be sent from the Bob to Alice. Okay? Now, Alice gets the second message that was sent by Bob, okay, and it decrypts that by using the private key. The message, the Bob sends a message in the format of encrypted one, that is in the form of encrypted one, and Alice just decrypt that message by using the private key of Alice itself. Okay, okay. So after examining, that is after verifying all the things, both the A and B are mutually authenticate each other. This is one of the techniques in the mutual authentication. Clear? Okay. So these are all comes under this authentication concept. Okay. So let me brief once again. So authentication protocol. So authentication protocol is nothing but it proves that or it shows the identity of the users both anyway. Okay, so authentication is nothing but providing the identity for the every user, right? So and we have some two issues here, that is confidentiality and timeliness. So confidentiality is protecting the session key and timeliness is to avoid the replay things. Okay, so we have seen that replay attacks. So simple replay, repetition, that repetition can be logged, repetition cannot be changed. Okay, so backward replay. So these are the replay attacks. And what are the countermeasures we have seen? Some three countermeasures are there. And we have seen that one-way authentication. One-way authentication is nothing but any one of them, both the sender and receiver, any one of them can authenticate himself or herself. Okay, so that is one-way authentication. And there is no need of transaction in the same time. There is no need of transaction between sender and receiver in the same time. So that is an important point in that one-way authentication. And password-based authentication also there. And password vulnerability we have seen. And second type is certificate-based authentication. Certificate-based authentication is the certificate will be provided for that particular authority to how to say to inform this one is a certified authenticated one. Okay, so that is a certificate-based authentication. We have seen, we have explained this by using an example also, I mean, by showing a diagram also. And the last one is mutual authentication. In that mutual authentication, we have two techniques. One is based on the shared secret key and also using public key cryptography. Okay, so based on the shared secret key, we can authenticate each other. That is, Alice and Bob authenticate sender and receiver in the same time. Okay, so that is by using the session key. Okay, and we have two-way authentications also. Two-way authentication is nothing but both the sender and receiver can communicate each other at the same time, right? So do you have any doubts in that? Yes, do you have any doubts in that?
No, sir.
Okay, so your attendance has been opened. Just wait it down. 57 people are there, right? So, so go and mark your attendance, and your quiz also will be opened. So before 12, you can answer your quiz also, right? Okay, thank you guys. Go and mark your attendance and answer your quiz before 12 p.m. Thank you.